Hello and welcome to Squizz.com, the connected marketplace. For this episode 8, I'll be showing the latest changes we've made to the platform over the last few weeks. In previous episodes, we talked about how the Squizz.com allows organizations to connect their systems to other suppliers and customers through the platform's API, short for Application Programming Interface. This allows data such as orders or products to flow between customer and supplier systems in a highly automated way. This cuts down costs, reduces errors, and increases productivity for both the customers and the suppliers on either end. To help more organizations integrate their business software into the platform's API, we have released a PHP open source library. If you don't know what PHP is, it is a highly popular computer programming language that many websites and e-commerce systems are built on. From Facebook to WordPress, Wikipedia to the other millions of websites running on the internet today. Using the Squizz.com PHP library, developers can quickly connect an organization's website or e-commerce systems into the platform without having to spend a lot of time writing low-level code. The API library can then be used to retrieve or update data on a website such as products or stock availability, or the website could be used to send orders to a supplier, or could be pushing up data that can be made available to other connected organizations such as other customers or other suppliers. On the Squizz.com homepage, if you scroll down and click on the Apps link, on the Apps page, if you scroll down to the Squizz.com platform API library, there is now a button where you can click to find the PHP library. And that takes you to the Squizz.com GitHub page that contains the PHP API library. On the GitHub page, if you scroll down, you can read through all the documentation on how to use the API library, and as well as we have example usages, so that way developers can quickly understand on how to get started using the library. The library itself covers calling all the endpoints that are available in the Squizz.com platform. For example, from sending purchase orders through, to retrieving different kinds of data, to sending websites to send notifications within the Squizz.com platform, as well as being able to create and modify sessions which are required to use the API. So a lot of this detail will help developers get quickly started and quickly starting to push and pull data within the Squizz.com platform to other supplier and organization systems. Now, to use the API, if we look under the Getting Started, there are a few dependencies. One is that you need to have also downloaded and installed the e-commerce standards document. So that's a standardized form in which data can be passed between the API. And so we've also created a PHP library that contains those standards. Additionally, you need to be running PHP 5.4 or higher, and the computer that PHP is running on needs to have the curl software installed to allow the library to be able to make requests through to the internet to the Squizz.com API on the servers. Developers can also download all the source code of the library, and we can also navigate through GitHub in order to see all the source code in its flesh as well. So all this code is open source, so anybody can download it. They can clone it to their own machine, and that's generally the easiest way if you're using Git in order to get the required PHP files onto your computer, so that way you can then start running it. Additionally, the open source API library also contains a number of examples. So if we go under the examples directory here, we've got a number of different example files. So if we opened up the how to create an organization notification in a platform, we can see example of how we would write the PHP code. So these examples, they can be used to copy or to get started to get your websites and e-commerce systems connected to the platform. And they go into a lot of detail. If you're a developer and you have further questions, you can always go to the feeds in Squizz, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have there. To see an example of the PHP library in action, if we look at this diagram, so we have two organizations. We have the Quickie Mart and the Donut Company, and this is the same example that we took from episode 7. So Quickie Mart will purchase donuts off the Donut Company. Now, Quickie Mart, they have a PHP website that is running where they can receive orders themselves from their own customers, such as if their own consumers could order off the Quickie Mart's website, we could then use the website to then connect it up into Squizz.com's API, and then that could then talk to the Donut Company to submit orders. So the Quickie would create a purchase order in their own website, or that website could import the purchase order from another associated business system. Using the API, the PHP API library, the website can then push that purchase order up into the API in Squizz.com, where Squizz can then use its procurement workflows to convert that into a sales order. The sales order can then be pushed by the platform into the donut companies because it has a connector or some other piece of software that can accept data being pushed from the platform. And the sales order can flow through that and into any other relevant connected business system in the donut factory. Using the PHP library, when the purchase order is created and pushed across into the donut factory, the sales order will also return back to the PHP library, so that way then Quickie knows the details of the order that was created, the amounts that were purchased, and the kinds of products that were purchased, and if there was any issues, the PHP library could also handle that. So that's the kind of workflow that the PHP library can be used for. It can also be used for data retrieval, as well as sending notifications in the platform to tell people about things that are happening. So if we look at this ordering workflow, and an example in the PHP library allows us to do that exact process. If I open up a new browser tab, I have the PHP library running as a web service through Nginx on my machine, and with a well-crafted URL, we can then call the procurement class within the library that will allow to be pushed up an order. If I run that URL, we can see in the example purchase order procurement endpoint in the library, it has advised us that an order has successfully been pushed up, and in this case that's gone from the Quickie to the donut company, and that is based on the IDs that have been given in the URL for the supply organization. So that's donut company's organization ID there, as well as the Quickie organization ID and its API credentials, which is stored here as well. So by running this web page in the back end, it's submitted the purchase order and it is returned back the successful response saying that a corresponding sales order is created in the donut company, and it has returned the sales order code. We can see the total cost of the order, which was $17.60 Australian dollars, $1.06 in taxes. Here's the customer account. So that's the account that Quickie have with the Donut Factory. So that's Donut Factory's the equivalent debtor account that they may have created in their own accounting system. So if we go back into the Squizz.com platform, because Abu is connected to the Donut Factory, he can also see the notification saying that the order was imported. We can see the details of the order, which is here. So we can see it's a Donut Factory order. Here's the details of the line that the API library had obtained. And then we can see the order totals here and all the information that we provided. So that gives you just one example of many examples where this PHP API library can produce a lot of automation. Specifically, if you've got developers that can then bolt in and pull and push data into your website, which is running on the PHP computer programming language. If you've got any questions of using the PHP library, please read through the documentation. And then if you've got any further questions, go to the feeds on Squizz.com and put in your questions and comments there. Now, while we're on the subject of the platform's API, if we go into an organization's profile, such as the Quickie that we have here, under the admin section, we have now separated out the API settings from the connector settings dialog. Previously, you had clicked on the connector settings, you would have seen how to set up the API credentials, which are required by third-party software, such as our connector software or the PHP library, to be able to then send data into the platform or retrieve data. Those credentials were put into this connector settings dialog. They've now been taken out, and now we have a separate icon here for API settings where you can set that up. So in order to call the API, you need to be able to have a Squizz.com organization ID. So that's an ID that each organization registered on the platform is given when that organization is first registered, as well as an API key. So this is the equivalent of a user name or a login ID that is required for the API. And then you can set a unique password that organization can use calling the API. And as few people should know about an organization's API password. And if it does become compromised, you can go into this dialog here and alter the contents of that password and update it. So this is just a small improvement to make it easier to be able to find a person can set the API settings. In order to do that, a person, such as Bill in this case, needs to be an administrator of this organization to be able to see this admin button, as well as see all the different admin sections that are available in an organization profile. Another improvement we've added is where we've created separate sections for tools and reports. And now we have 4 new icons that can produce data on the history of the attempts to import an organization's data, export data back to an organization's business systems, to be able to see what other organizations are retrieving data off, in this case, the Quickie Mart, and to be able to see orders that have been attempted to be submitted to third-party freight providers, such as Smart Freight. So in the data imports history, we can see all the attempts that have been made to import data into the Squizz.com platform for this organization. So we can see here that in this case, it successfully imported 3 out of 3 products, and you can see there have been a number of product imports that have been made over a period of time, as well as we can see different kinds of data that had been imported, such as surcharges. Here we have customer accounts data. So this is all helpful if you're an administrator wanting to know how often data is being imported by the organization, and that could be important because if data is changing in your products, such as stock quantities are changing, or you want to update the descriptions, then you need to import that data through the API using either the connector or other API libraries, such as the PHP or Java libraries. Additionally, if we look at the data exports history, we can see data that is being exported back to a business system through the connector. In this case, we can see a sales order that had successfully been submitted by the platform back into the Quickie Mart's own business system, and we can see that it successfully exported out that sales order, and it took that amount of time. If it couldn't be exported for whatever reason, maybe the connector or the software at the other end was not available, then we could see if it was not completed, and we can do some diagnostics to try to work out what was going wrong. The same goes for data retrieval. So we can see if multiple organizations are connected to, in this case, the Quickie Mart, we can see if they're making attempts to retrieve data. So in this case, we can see that the Springfield Police, which is another organization, has attempted to retrieve the Quickie Mart's products that they have uploaded into the platform. So we can see that 4 out of 4 products were retrieved by the Springfield Police, and it took them half a second in order to retrieve that product data. So that's relevant, and we can see that besides product data, we can see pricing data was retrieved. We can see product stock quantities. So all this data we talked about in episode 7 of the release videos, and you can find a link in the description of this YouTube video. This allows organizations to be able to retrieve data from the Quickie Mart, and you can see how often customers or suppliers are retrieving your data and doing stuff with that. And if you've got restrictions in place, such as certain products shouldn't be allowed to retrieve data, you can see from your total inventory how many products they have actually been made available. So you can see more information about the data retrievals in the detailed dialogue. The last report that we've added is freight order history. So when a sales order is created in the platform, you may want to submit that to a company such as Smart Freight, and we can see if those orders could be sent or not, and at what date was it attempted made to submit a sales order to Smart Freight or another freight provider to be able to then get that a freight carrier aware of a order that requires them to deliver their products to a customer. Just like all the other reports, we can see the dates when those attempts were made. If they were successful, we can go in there and see the specific sales order, where that freight order was attempted to be sent, and any reference code that has been produced by the freight provider. So in this case, Smart Freight, this is an identifier that their system produced when this sales order was submitted to their systems and then on to the Quickie Mart's warehousing to allow consignment notes to be created. So all these reports can help administrators understand data flowing in and out of their organization that is residing on the Squizz.com platform. And over time, we'll be increasing the amount of reports that will go into this section within the organization's profile. The next improvement we've made to the Squizz.com platform has to do with the order procurement process. So if I look at where we have an organisation called Springfield Police. Springfield Police purchases of the other organisations called Quickie-Mart. So the police buy donuts of the Quickie-Mart organisation. So Springfield Police have uploaded some supplier accounts and they've linked that to the Quickie-Mart, and Quickie-Mart have connected to Springfield Police and assigned them to a customer account. So if we click on their details against the supplier account that the Springfield Police have, they can load up the purchase orders that they have in their own accounting system. And we saw that in early episodes of the YouTube videos showing how an organization can connect up their business system to load up purchase orders using the Squizz.com connector software. And so in this case, we can see that there are a number of purchase orders that have been queried in real time from Springfield Police's system, and we can go load up a purchase order, and then we can then make a request to order that off the associated supplier, and so in this case it is the Quickie-Mart. In the order procurement dialog, the improvement we've made is that when the system finds a supplier's product, so in this case it has found blue donuts is corresponding to the purchase order, so that Springfield Police is, in their purchase order they had it as the product code as red donuts, but that corresponds to blue donuts because a person has mapped those products previously. So Springfield Police are ordering this product called blue donuts, and there is now 20 available in stock of each, and then Springfield Police is wanting to order 10, so there should be no issues ordering these products. And you can see for the pink donuts here, there is minus 288 in stock, and they're wanting to order 10. So if they did submit this order, then there could be a chance they would have to wait before Quickie-Mart purchases more of those donuts before they will actually receive them. Using data sharing policies, and we talked about data sharing policies in the episode 7 YouTube video clip, also linked to in the description of this YouTube, we can now have permissions where we control whether or not the Springfield Police is allowed to order these products or not, based on if they're out of stock or in stock. So now the Springfield Police purchasing people now have the ability to know if they need to wait or not, and then Quickie-Mart themselves can determine if they're allowed to be ordered based on the stock availability. If we go into the Quickie-Mart's profile, the admin of the Quickie-Mart using their data sharing policies can do a few things with the stock availability. So we've got a data sharing policy called our testing policy, and that has a few permissions that allows, firstly, do we want to be able to show the Springfield Police, which is assigned to this data sharing policy, are they allowed to see the stock quantity? So we could set that back to no, and if we did that and save that, back in the procurement dialog, once Springfield Police next create an order, you can see that the stock availability, they can no longer see the actual stock quantity that is available. They're now down to only they can see the stock levels. And so there are 3 different types of levels that the Squizz.com platform support, that which is the stock is high in availability, it is low, or there is none available. And Quickie-Mart, when they upload their products, get to choose what quantities indicate those levels. So if we go into, say, the blue donuts product, we can see that the stock none amount is at 0. So when there is 0 or less stock, then it'll be that indicator will say that there is none available. If the stock is low, so that's in this case it's 5 or less, then that product will be considered low in stock. And if it's greater than 5, then the product will be considered high in stock. So as we're seeing here, for this product, it is saying high because the stock amount available is 20, and that is greater than the low amount. Whereas if we looked at the pink donut product that Quickie-Mart was selling, we can see that the stock amount is at minus 288, but the stock low amount and the stock none amount are much, much higher than above where the stock amount is currently at. That shows you, by using the API, when Quickie-Mart imports data, they can set these levels, and then we can use that in order to show the levels to the customers who are purchasing the actual stock amount, or we can put in these stock levels. Now, if the Quickie-Mart did not want Springfield Police to be able to even see stock levels themselves, they can go back into the data sharing policy, and we can go into there, and there's another permission where we can turn off even allowing Springfield Police to even be able to see the stock levels. So if we save that, then we refreshed the procurement dialog, you can see that the stock levels now have been hidden from the dialog altogether. So this allows you to customize, and they can do it on a per customer basis, which connected organizations can see the stock availability and which organizations can't. Now we can go even further where we can pick and choose different products that are allowed to, once again based on the data sharing policies. So we may say Springfield Police is allowed to see the stock availability of this blue donut product. So if we set up an exception rule, so here's an example where I have here. So we can say when the product code equals blue donuts, we can put a thing, we can say that yes, they're allowed to see the stock level, but they're not still allowed to see the stock quantities. So if we save that, then refresh the procurement dialog, you can see now that they are now once again able to see the stock availability for this product, this blue donuts product, but they're not allowed to see it for the pink donuts product. And now we can also change that for the pink donuts as well. So we can set up another exception rule that says for them, when the product code is equal to pink donuts, then we can say, yes, you are allowed to see the stock quantity as well as the stock levels. So once again, we refresh the order procurement, and you can now see for the pink donuts, Springfield Police is able to see the actual stock quantity available, whereas for the blue nuts, they only see the stock level. So this gives you a great example of how you can completely customize and tailor stock availability for your customers. Now we can go one step further again, and then we can, using the data sharing policies that we developed in the last releases, we can then choose whether or not Springfield Police is allowed to buy when a stock is unavailable. So if we go back into the data sharing policies, we can see there's a permission here that says, are you firstly allowed to buy products? So that's yes, but are they allowed to back order? And then back ordering means that if a product is out of stock, then if this is set to yes, then it's allowed to be still ordered even if it is out of stock. Whereas if it's set to no, then it cannot be ordered out of stock, because that would raise a back order. So if we refresh the procurement dialog and do it again, you can see now that there's now a yellow box saying that there could not be any product that has been found associated to the pink donut in the purchase order that is available. And so now Quickie Mart, instead, they have to choose, do they try to find a different product that matches, or should they remove this line from the purchase order? And then they can continue on procuring the order. You can also customize that on a per product basis using the exception rules, because there's a back order permission here as well. So you can pick and choose which products can be ordered when it's out of stock and which products cannot be ordered by different customers based on which data sharing policy they have been assigned to for that given organization. So we can see here Springfield Police in the relationships dialogues, they've been assigned to that specific data sharing policy, whereas we could have the Donut Factory as another organization, and they could be assigned to a default policy, for instance, that does not allow back ordering or ordering product that's out of stock or viewing different stock availability. So taking all the concepts of data sharing policies, we can produce highly customized and intricate permissions based on all the complexities of different customers on which products they are and are not allowed to order in the platform. The last improvement we've added to the Squizz.com platform is in the organizational searches. So now when you type in an organization's name, it will appear in the autocomplete, and then you can then click on that organization's name in the drop down to go immediately to the organization. The organization search has been much quicker than it was previously. Additionally, you can access the organizational search by clicking on the Q icon in the top right hand corner and then type in the name of the organization that you're looking for. Note that if you can also search for organizations based on region, so if we click on Victoria, that will take us to the organization search, which will find all organizations that have been registered that organization to the Victorian state. Organizations which are trusted will appear first within the organization searches, and then all untrusted organizations will appear further down the list. So this gives you a great way that you can find organizations such as suppliers or other customers registered in the Squizz.com platform quickly and easily. If you have any further questions, comments or feedback based on what we've shown in the video, please feel free to go to the Squizz.com profile by clicking on the profile link in the footer of the platform's webpage and click on the feeds section, and then under the Squizz Early Adopters feed, feel free to post your questions within the feed where we're happy to provide answers and give you extra information. Until next time, thanks for watching this video. Happy squizzing!